Madam President, esteemed colleagues, viewers in the gallery, those viewing and listening virtually, good morning.
Good morning.
I rise in this honorable house to support the bill, Nevis Appropriation Bill 2024. Madam President, within every generation, certain sayings arise. They arise, and some stand the test of time while others die out. Those that are able to stand the test of time are undoubtedly filled with some level of truth that we must accept. Madam President, one such saying is that the health of a nation is the wealth of a nation, and that has stood the test of time. With that statement accepted as an almost universal fact, it is fair to conclude that the Ministry of Health, Gender Affairs, and Social Empowerment is the bedrock of a resilient and sustainable economy. As we construct the framework for the way forward, Madam President, it is imperative that we recognize the interplay between these sectors and our economic fabric. Our efforts to fortify health systems, champion gender equality, and foster social empowerment are not merely ethical imperatives. They are strategic investments, and they underpin the foundation of our nation's prosperity. Madam President, I come before you as a mere servant of the Ministry of Health, Gender Affairs, and Social Empowerment. I will endeavor to provide the public with some insight as to where we are, where we're going, and some aspects of how we intend to get there. The theme this year that we are guided by is investing for growth, building a framework to support a resilient and sustainable economy. And we will focus, I will focus on the key terms of investing. That means your time, your money, your effort. Resilient, that means you're able to withstand shocks and recover appropriately. Sustainability, as the United Nations would explain it, is that the current generation can benefit from what there is while securing the same benefits for future generations to come. Notice that although my background is in history, I'm not focusing on the past, Madam President. This is intentional, as quite often when we focus on the past, we get stuck in a cycle of this is how it's always been, that's how we always do it. And that, Madam President, is not the appropriate mindset as we move forward with growth in mind. At this juncture, Madam President, I want us to bear that mindset in mind, growth moving forward. So, I'm going to begin with where we are. Within the Ministry of Health, Gender Affairs, and Social Empowerment. But before I continue, Madam President, I want to take this opportunity to give appreciation to those employees who have helped to get us to where we are, but are retiring in this year or have already retired in this year. It's important to pay this homage to these individuals. So within the Social Empowerment Head, we have staff. Swain Evelyn would have transferred. Retiring, we have Mr. Elfane Warner, Cordelia Brown, Veronica Brandy, Esther Jeffers, Elrose Atherton, Miriam Richards, Gloria Morton, Glenroy Skeet, Anthony Bowring, Alfonso Blake, and Maurice Burke. Madam President, without their years of service, we would not have been able to get to where we are today. Within the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs, we also have several individuals who would have contributed and are on their way out or have already retired for the year. And this list is a bit longer, but if you'll indulge me, Madam President, as this recognition is valuable. Derek Liberd, Christine Richards, Veron Brooks, Daniel Motel Jr., Valerie Phillip, Jeanette Byron, Francil Otterton, Jean Otterton, Heather Otterton, Shirley Hanley, Gillian Lapsey, Tessa Parry, Leslie Maynard Jeffers, Ornette William Daniel, Felissa John, Dr. Chandy Jacobs, Norel Daniel, Kerenia Perry Silva, Jervin Matigbe, Lena Powell, Hortense Sutton, Maybelline Cabaluna, Donna Hill, Dahlia Simmons, Lester Richards, Stephen Mead, Madhu Joshi, Kenisha Isaac, Deborah Powell, Victoria Forrester, Jermaine Irish, Gladys Dorr, Euclid Liebert, Marcella Webb, Anton Hicks, and Donna Bartlett. Madam President, if inadvertently a name was missed, we also extend our appreciation to them. The circle of life is such, however, that when you lose something, you often gain something else in return. And so within the ministry, we have also gained quite a number of staff in social empowerment. We have Patrick Howell joining us as the Senior Communications Officer. We have Karen Brandy Ward and Julene Manners joining us as social caseworkers, and Shanice Richardson joining as one of our RISE officers. In health, we also have the addition of an OBGYN, anesthesiologist, a radiologist, and an additional surgeon to our staff. Madam President, I must note at this point that at this time we have 3 surgeons at the Alexandra Hospital, the first ever in our history. Madam President, as you can see, these additions are strategic in nature, as we understand that for growth, we must invest in our human resource capabilities. Gone are the days when general practitioners had to do everything and anything within the Ministry of Health. We understand that we now need specialized and technical expertise in different areas in order to be sustainable. While we still experience some shortage in key areas, we continue to encourage our locals and nationals to target these areas, go off, specialize, and come back qualified to be able to serve the Nevisian public. Madam President, at this time we anxiously await the return of one of our dental students studying in Cuba. He's set to return in the upcoming year. And Madam President, often we encourage our locals to go off and specialize and study, but we accept within the ministry that, as the old adage goes, money talks. So you can't expect individuals to be able to, every individual to be able to afford these ventures. And so the ministry has made it its mission to be able to facilitate an environment where we can support those who are willing and ready to make this step. As such, we have 2 medical doctors who are specializing in Cuba currently in anesthesia and ophthalmology. We have 1 doctor in the US who is pursuing planning and policy in emergency health. We have various individuals enrolled in the nursing programs at CFBC, and a nurse anesthetist due to return next year from Jamaica. Madam President, we also facilitated our annual MUA NIA scholarship, where we award 2 individuals annually. And this year's recipients are Raquel Burke, who received a scholarship to pursue counseling, and Shania Liebert, who received a scholarship to pursue nutrition and dietetics. We also have 1 doctor and 1 nurse who are benefiting from a 6 weeks training course in Taiwan at no cost to them. Again, Madam Moderator, Madam President. So, Madam President, yesterday the honorable member for Nevis 4 would have mentioned that we have to offer assistance to these practitioners who may want to specialize. But I'm here to reiterate, as I would have done in the last budget cycle, that we are offering this assistance. Our nursing students in CFBC and otherwise are receiving financial support from this government monthly. And the case was previously, Madam President, that in the case of our doctors, those who did not yet qualify for the standard study leave, they were left to fend for themselves. But in the early stages of this year, I would have assessed that and realized that if we are to truly try to reach the goal that we say we want to reach, we have to support these individuals as well. And so a policy was implemented where we're now providing financial support, monthly financial support, to these doctors who are off specializing and have not qualified for the initial ordinary study leave. Currently, we have 3 such doctors benefiting from this. So I guess I can take that as an endorsement from the honorable member for number 4 that we are in fact doing a good job and have the best policies in place. Madam President, on the local front, we continue to offer a variety of training and technical opportunities to develop your skills within the Ministry of Health and through some of our developmental partners. Madam President, at this time, I want to point out that while we continue to encourage people to go into these areas, we also recognize that quite often their services are undervalued and underappreciated by members of the public. You can often feel disillusioned and demotivated. But we want to re-emphasize that we appreciate these individuals who make the sacrifice to go into these fields. We know that we focus a lot within the Ministry of Health on recruitment to be able to fill a lot of our gaps, especially nursing and specialist areas, but that is simply unsustainable as we are competing with major global powers such as Canada, the US, the UK, who are actively recruiting these same individuals and are able, with larger income pools, to be able to attract these individuals. So we must continue to encourage those locally to go into these positions. And at this time, while we encourage them to go into these, I want to be able to reference one individual who would have publicly, expressed their gratitude and awe of these individuals, just as a reminder that it's not everyone out there who is underappreciative. So I'm going to read a post that was made quite publicly on social media, just so that the House and the general public can appreciate and possibly reconsider themselves if they ever underappreciate our medical personnel. So yesterday, while picking up a few things in Ram's supermarket with my sister, we witnessed a patron having a serious medical emergency. I sincerely pray that he pulls through and has a speedy recovery. I am really hoping to hear of a good outcome. In the midst of the panic and fright, I also witnessed a real-life superhero in action. After quickly realizing the situation, our assistant matron, Miss Golden, who was in the checkout line, sprung into action without hesitation. Let me tell you, she worked and worked on that patient until the ambulance arrived, and she worked some more with the EMTs after that. But through it all, she remained calm, and even with a large crowd around her, and even while some patrons continued to shop, not realizing what was unfolding, she was meticulous and persistent. Me nah lie, I was very scared and in total shock, but I couldn't help but watch in awe as she put her experience and training into play. Even tonight, I am still very rattled, but Miss Golden simply took a few minutes to collect herself, and she gracefully walked out of the supermarket after the ambulance left, as if she did not just throw down some greatness. Miss Golden, you are an inspiration and proof that there is still good people among us. Nevis, our healthcare professionals are the real MVPs, and we can certainly do more to show them the appreciation and respect that they deserve. Thank you for all that you do. P.S. I don't personally know the young lady, and I don't know if she knows me, but I just really wanted to applaud her. So, Madam President, the comments under that post were also supportive of the theme. Other individuals would have recognized some of the greatness within our healthcare services. And I think it's important sometimes. We always complain very publicly about the bad and the challenges and that you had to wait 30 minutes instead of 5 minutes. But it's important to be able to recognize the actual work that our healthcare providers put in. Madam President, go back to some of the local training that our staff continues to receive. I can highlight that this year our environmental health department officers would have experienced some training from our CARFA consultants, and those training would have helped to strengthen their surveillance capacity through the use of the GIS system, and they are definitely putting that training into use when it comes to vector control management. And currently we are seeing a rise in dengue cases, and they're actively putting those skills to use to be able to survey the areas that are most populated by these mosquitoes and help to curb the issues. We also had some first responder training this year, which focused on life-saving pre-hospital care facilitated by the Red Cross and the Four Seasons Homeowners Association. And so that training, Madam President, would help other individuals. In the case of the supermarket incident, other individuals would be able to jump in and lend assistance and provide that necessary and critical care until the health professionals arrive on the scene. We also had some training in crisis intervention training for our first responders, because there are times this was specifically around those dealing with mental health issues. Because sometimes even our first responders, they don't have that very specific training to deal with individuals who are suffering from mental health issues. And so this training facilitated by PAHO would have helped with de-escalation strategies so that the police, EMTs, anyone interacting with these individuals firsthand, before you have the psychologists or counselors on the scene, they're able to do so in a humane and effective manner. So 28 participants would have benefited from that training. Madam President, the Health Promotion Unit officers also took part in a risk communication training in St. Kitts, and this training was also facilitated through PAHO, and they were able to gain expertise in key areas of emergency response and identifying certain health threats. A 3-day HIV and syphilis master training virtual course also commenced this year, and some of our staff from the Health Promotion Unit were also able to benefit from this training, which will help to improve access and increase testing. And this will link to early detection, which can help to save lives, Madam President. Madam President, to give a more complete visual of where we are, please indulge me while I outline some of the many activities and achievements and some shortfalls that we would have experienced throughout the year in the different departments that fall under my ministry. Within the Ministry of Health, we begin with some of our accomplishments that we were able to achieve through partnerships. And we continue to underscore how important these partnerships are to the development and sustainability of the island and the health sector. So through these partnerships, we were able to acquire a 128 slice CT scan machine, as I would have outlined in the last budget presentation. And since then, Madam President, we would have been able to commission this machine, and Nevisians are now accessing the service at the radiology department at the hospital. To date, at the end of November, 235 Nevisians would have benefited from this service that would have otherwise required them to journey over to St. Kitts. To complement this life-saving tool, Madam President, we also realized that we needed to update our picture archiving and communication system. So to that end, this year we actively pursued acquiring what is commonly called the PAC system. And this system represents a value of over $78,000. Madam President, 69,000 of those dollars were made available to us thanks to the kind donation of the Patrick and Lena Drahi Foundation. The NIA was able to top up the balance of $9,000 and invest in that PAC system. And that system, Madam President, allows for more effective storage of scans within the radiology department, from the CT scan, the X-rays, the mammogram. Through this system, you're also able to collaborate more easily with professionals overseas, as it's easy to share the images and access them electronically, thus able to provide the best care for individuals at a time when time is critical. Every minute counts. And so this system helps to be able to speed up that situation. It also boosts, while we're on the theme of sustainability and resilience, due to the very nature of the system, the data is stored virtually in an off-site server. So it's near impossible to lose all that data. So in previous cases where you might have been storing the physical file at the hospital, in the case of a fire, all that data would be lost. Globally, it's reported that approximately 20% of such scans are misfiled or misplaced or cannot be accessed, generally when filed in the old-fashioned method. So this system now helps to increase sustainability and resilience. As certain disasters, you're still able to access those critical health data. Madam President, we have also benefited from various medical supplies made available through us from the St. Kitts and Nevis Circle of Care, Canada, and the Nevisian Association of Washington, D.C., from our Pediatric Assistance League pals, who would have donated cribs and bedside tables to the maternity ward, from the Nevis Cooperative Credit Union, who donated a laptop to our radiology department, from monetary donations made from private and corporate citizens and businesses. We recently received a monetary donation of $10,000 from the Swiss Embassy towards the purchase of a shower trolley for the Flamboyant nursing home. So that should be acquired shortly, Madam President, and that would enable us to provide better care to our residents there at the nursing home, particularly those who are immobile. It allows the healthcare professionals to be able to give them an effective shower if they are not able to maneuver themselves. Madam President, we also received from the Republic of China, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing this, the Cao Zhangji Foundation, Republic of China, Taiwan, my correction, and mobility devices were received from them, including wheelchairs, walkers, canes, folding commodes, etc., for our seniors who are dealing with disabilities. The Republic of China, Taiwan government also made a donation of US $30,000 towards the purchase of 3 state-of-the-art dental chairs, and we have now commissioned those, and they are in action, 1 at the Gingerland Dental Unit and 2 at the Charlestown Dental Unit. Madam President, at this point we express our profound thanks to our partners, because without you we simply would not be able to achieve as much as quickly. And so we are appreciative of the continued partnership as we move towards creating a sustainable health space. Madam President, as the elders will tell you, one hand can't clap. And thus the government must also make some investments itself as we seek to partner with those who help to assist us. To complement the major medical equipment such as the $230,000 US mammogram machine and the 61,000 chemistry analyzer highlighted in the 2023 budget, we have continued our internal investment, and to that end we have added a portable or telecataract 3 phacoemulsification system, and in other words, we're not technical professionals, so that's a cataract machine, Madam President, and this represented a cost of $40,000 US. We also acquired an additional operating bed at the hospital for our theater, representing an investment of $56,236.54 EC dollars. A new sterilizer machine representing an investment of $93,439.05 EC, Madam President. Madam President, beyond equipment within the Ministry of Health, great focus was also placed on improving facilities and services. So as such, outpatient clinics, a critical component of the hospital service, Madam President, were resumed after a hiatus during the COVID-19 pandemic. So on Mondays, you can, with a doctor's referral of course, attend the pediatric clinic at the Alexandra Hospital on Mondays at 10 a.m. On Tuesdays at 10 a.m., we have internal medicine for new patients. On Wednesdays at 11 a.m., we have the orthopedic clinic. On Thursdays at 10 a.m., we have the internal medicine follow-up clinic. And on Fridays at 10 a.m., we have obstetrics and gynecology. And these all must be referred by a physician, but it's providing that critical access to our general public to these services. We also have some new service hours at the hospital for the pharmacy and radiology departments, who have extended their hours to opening earlier at 7:30. We understand that oftentimes if everyone opens at 8:30 when individuals have to be at work, you're not able to get that necessary time to access critical services, and so these opening hours would help to better cater to those needs of the public. The visiting hours for inpatients at the hospital also increased to twice per day, and you can now visit from 11:30 to 12:50 and 4 to 6 p.m. There are 2 days, Madam President, where those are not visiting days, but I don't want to misquote, I don't have them here with me. But you can get that information at the Alexandra Hospital. We also saw the relocation of the Charlestown Health Center and Dental Unit to the Wards building, and this is to be able to better serve the public, Madam President, in order of general safety and security of the building and the safety of the health of the staff as well, general ambiance, space, and ability to better deliver service as we work towards a redesign of the Charlestown Charlestown Health Center and dental unit for the coming years. New services were introduced at the hospital in the form of the mammogram services, and these were made available as of May this year. Madam President, I'll try to, speak a little slow at this point because I'm very passionate about this aspect. The mammogram services, after intense discussion in Cabinet, it was critical. We wanted to keep this service affordable as we understand that it is a life-saving preventative measure that we want as many individuals to access on a regular basis as possible. So after intense discussion and research as to the prices around whether on circuits or regionally, we arrived at the low cost of $200 for the service. But Madam President, we did not stop there. We said some individuals may still not necessarily be able to find that at the given time. So we wanted on this initial rollout to give everyone the opportunity to access the service. And as such, we implemented a policy where from May to December 31st of 2023, we made that service free of cost, that is free, F-R-E-E, free of cost to the general public. So we continue to encourage our women in particular to take up this opportunity. There's still a few weeks left in 2023, Madam President. So we encourage our women, especially those over 40, to be able to access this screening tool. Madam President, this tool required the referral of a doctor to be able to access it. So some individuals in the public would have explained that, even though the service is free, they still can't find the $100 or $150 to go see a medical doctor to be able to gain that referral note. And so we went back to the drawing board, Madam President. We had discussions with our doctors within the public health sector who are placed on the district within our health centers. And we were able to agree that during those doctors' days at the various health centers, along with regular doctor visits, individuals who had an interest in getting that referral could access the doctors at these centers and gain that referral free of cost. So on Mondays, you can access a doctor at the Butler's Health Center from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. On Tuesdays, the Brown Hill Health Center from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. On Wednesdays at the Gingerland and Cotton Ground Health Center from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. On Thursdays at the Charlestown Health Center from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. On Friday at the Combermere Health Center from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Madam President, that is island-wide access. There is no excuse at this point for not accessing this service if you are in need. Thus far, Madam President, we have serviced 313 patients since May of this year to the end of November. If we look at that in terms of numbers, valued at one screening is valued at $200. If we look at that, Madam President, that is a $62,600 investment, $62,600 investment in our people. That is money that we could have collected, but we opted to sacrifice as an administration in order to ensure that individuals are able to access this life-saving tool. While there was some slowness on the initial uptake, Madam President. I was advised by the staff within the radiology unit that now it's picking up and we're doing up to 6 to 8 per day sometimes. And I'm happy to report that in November alone, out of the 313 patients from May to November, in November alone, 101 scans were done. So that indicates that at least 1/3 of the individuals accessed it in November, and I'm hoping that the pattern continues for December and that the numbers keep going up and maybe we can reach a 500 target mark. So just to reiterate, please get screened with our free mammogram services at the Alexandra Hospital. You can make your appointments through the radiology unit. Just call the hospital and make your appointment. Along the same vein, Madam President, we have made CT scans available to the general public as of January 2023. And again, we ensure that the cost was significantly lower than what was previously incurred by individuals who had to hire an ambulance sometimes, pay both fees, and then pay for service when they access that service on St. Kitts. So as of November, as I would have mentioned earlier, 235 individuals would have benefited from CT scans. Madam President, as we bear sustainability in mind, there are certain groups who are sometimes exempted from certain payments at the hospital. But we realize that for certain specialized services such as this CT scan, in order to capitalize on the investment, we had to ensure that all groups were able to pay for this service. So there are no exemption categories for this service. Of course, individuals who are living in extreme poverty can access assistance through different means such as social services or our medical assistance. But the service itself has a cost to everyone within the Federation. So this service, this machine was valued at over $800,000, and thus those fees will help to contribute towards maintenance and repairs over the years, and eventually, Madam President, this machine will have to be replaced by a newer machine, and we have to ensure that our future generations can also benefit from such service. So we are encouraging the public to, pay for the service when it is necessary. Madam President, within the public health and primary health care services, we operate under the mindset of an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And as such, we have made great strides in this arena in terms of screening activities, many of those done in collaboration with Taiwan ICDF, the Health Promotion Unit, and public and private entities. So we have a number of NCD screenings which would have taken place throughout the year. I'm sure I was screened at least 5 times throughout this year, Madam President. They keep appearing shocked that my blood pressure is still low, given the new position. But we have these screenings available free of cost to the public. So when you see a pop-up screening, please access them and know your numbers. It helps to inform, and it can inform you early to make a shift in your lifestyle before disease develops. In January of this year, thanks to Urology and Associates, who held their annual prostate free screening, 726 men, a record high, Madam President, would have accessed this free service. So I take a moment to reflect on those numbers versus the numbers of women who are accessing the service, the mammogram service, Madam President. And I have a theory. It's grounded in some facts, some theory, I think that our women are encouraging our men to, take better care of themselves. And so our women are encouraging our men to go and get their prostate checked. I don't know if our men are necessarily actively doing the same for our women. So, I'm sounding the call, gentlemen. Please encourage the women in your life. Ask your wife, ask your mother, have you taken advantage of the mammogram screening service yet at the hospital? Because trust me, your wife will tell you when to go and get your prostate checked. I mentioned at the last sit-in, Madam President, that married men tend to live longer. And that is according to those information, Madam President, I drew from a Harvard Health study, which would have indicated that married men statistically live longer than their single counterparts. So, member for Nevis 3, I don't know, member for Senator, you might want to. But, Madam President, in addition to that, also did some additional reading, and it turns out that married men, when a study was done between married men and married women who lost their spouses, it turned out that 30% of the men also passed away relatively shortly, compared to only 50% of women who would have lost their spouses. Hence, men, your wives are helping to keep you alive, and so, yes. So encourage them to get checked so that you can also benefit and live longer. I'm doing the Lord's work here, Madam President. If you ask why I'm not married myself, the research actually shows that it's not the same in reverse. I digress. Madam President, let me get back from that detour. In terms of our mental health sector, we've also introduced quite a number of screening activities in that sector. So recently, during our World AIDS Day screening held on December 1st, our mental health department would have also began doing some screenings of some of those individuals. They ask you certain questions to test your stress level so that they're able to see whether you might be suffering or at risk for mental health issues. At that last screening, 19 individuals would have accessed that screening. So that will become more popular in the upcoming year, Madam President. So I want to encourage our general public to be open to those forms of screening as well. We recently, for our World AIDS Day, as I mentioned just now, had a mass screening drive. We have our regular testing done at HPU for HIV and AIDS. But for World AIDS Day, we had a mass screening activity where 66 individuals were able to access testing for HIV, and 60 individuals accessed testing for syphilis and hepatitis B. So at this time, I'll put a plug in for the Health Promotion Unit. It's still within the period of recognizing World AIDS Day. And so tomorrow night at the Zanzibar rooftop, they're having what they've dubbed the Adult Games Night, where they use certain games to sensitize you about healthy sex practices, HIV and AIDS, and other information that is free, it's fun. It's at Zanzibar tomorrow night from 8 to 11. So please come out, get educated in a fun adult atmosphere. We continue to offer free pap smears for cervical cancer through our community nursing team. And our health promotion unit continues to pursue education, awareness campaigns, organizing physical activities, walks, runs, yoga, hikes, you name it. Our environmental health department are also doing some strong sensitization on food safety, and vector-borne diseases such as dengue fever. Madam President, we also have a robust eye care program here under the direction of Dr. Raymond Hubie, and it offers screening, medication, updated equipment, new state-of-the-art procedures, all within that program. Madam President, notice that these areas just mentioned are under our public health sector, which means that although they come at a cost to the Nevis Island administration, they do not come at a cost for the citizens who access services through that public health from our health centers and our eye care program and screenings at the health promotion unit. Other notable achievements and activities within the Ministry of Health include our launch of our blood donor drive by the Alexandra Hospital Lab, and registration for this is ongoing. Individuals might ask why we don't just have a blood donation drive, but it is not the most efficient method, as there is only a finite amount of storage space, and also the supply does not necessarily last for an extended period of time. You can't use the blood after a certain period of time. So it's better for us to have a database of individuals who have already been screened, who have consented and are willing to be donors when we need a donation for that specific blood type. So you go, you register, you get screened, they add you to the list, and in the event that they need a donation for that blood type, they'll be able to go through their roster and call upon individuals to come in and make that donation. This would help to move away from individual families needing to make social media posts, etc., asking for blood donation. On Mental Health Day, which was recognized on October 10, we recognized 3 individuals for their work with persons with mental illnesses, and those included Ms. Trudy Prentice, Inspector Alonzo Carty, and Ms. Carla Glasgow. We extend our appreciation, and thus they were recognized for their often above and beyond services. SKN Moves also celebrated their 5th anniversary with a full island walk on October 7th, where scores of participants were able to join the full island walk. Some made it all the way. Some had shoe problems. Some jumped in our Red Cross bus. And some, like myself, joined in at the last leg, Madam President. But this activity helped to mark a number of activities that SKN Moves have done throughout the year and will continue to do to promote an active lifestyle so that individuals can keep moving and reduce the risk for NCDs. Madam President, we also had the launch of our health center spaces conducive to the advancement of physical, social, and cognitive development. And this is in its pilot stages at our Brownhill and Combermere centers. This, Madam President, would allow for active engagement during toddler and infant clinics, where you have the children, instead of just children and parents waiting absent-mindedly, you are able to engage the children in a holistic way where they're able to learn and develop through play, and you're also able to provide information and sessions to some of the waiting parents on some of the developmental milestones. This is a project that was made possible thanks to our developmental partner, UNICEF, and so we express our thanks there as well. In the Department of Gender Affairs, Madam President, a number of activities were done throughout the year as we advocate for gender equality, gender equity, as we celebrate our men, we celebrate our women, we celebrate our boys, we celebrate our girls for the uniqueness of all of us and how we can better live together and appreciate our differences as complementary rather than competitive. So this year we had our boys, and on International Day of the Boy Child and International Day of the Girl Child, celebrated on May 16th and October 12th respectively, we had what we've dubbed the Boy of Excellence Awards and the Girls of Excellence Awards. And these were presented to one boy and one girl from each of the primary and secondary schools on the island. So allow me to just list the awardees, because it's important to recognize our youths at an early age, because this is the most critical stage of their lives that shape the path that they are going to go in the future. So for our Boys of Excellence, we had, and forgive me for any mispronunciations, we had Cameron Forbes, Nyanje Liebert, Zaire Jeffers, Kian Blake, Julio Gonzalez, Zuri Wade, Naikosane Hanley, Jordan Liebert, Mayor Daswani, Aiden Gager, Abhijit Shiriz Vasan, thank you. I would not attempt to repeat that at this moment. Thank you. Hildreth Truss, Nahum Polius, Dejan Philip. And our Girls of Excellence, Madam President, we had Decoy Liebert, Jacoya Francis, Shermia Thompson, Emily Solomon, Jahnel Nisbett, Zoe Gilbert, Belinda Subramani, Reshon Sia Chapman, Alana Otherton, Celine Gums, Kaija Nisbett, Shakesia Hobson, Zion Hardin, Kyla Williams. And we celebrate you for your excellence at such a young age. On October 19th, the department conducted a one-day seminar on money and financial wellness, overcoming financial challenges. And you might ask why the Department of Gender Affairs is dealing with money and financial literacy, but oftentimes we know that financial issues form some of the bedrock of challenges between the sexes, to put it that way. It's also an important tool, financial literacy, to be able to help individuals to elevate out of certain circumstances that their gender makes particularly challenging, such as you might have a lot of single mothers, as we know, on island. To help them become more financially literate, we help them to advance further within our society. The Ministry of within Gender Affairs, we also culminated the pilot phase of the Boys Mentorship Program, and we say a special thank you to the Nevis International Secondary School, where the boys would have come from, and Bonnie, who would have been one of the key sponsors for this program. Within the Ministry of Health, Gender Affairs and Social Empowerment, we also partnered with the Nevis CBR Advocates, and we provided a donation of $5,000 towards the staging of the first ever Empowerment Summer Camp for persons with disabilities in Nevis. And Madam President, I know a lot of questions were raised regarding our support for individuals with disabilities, so I just want to reiterate that we do make provisions for our individuals with disabilities, or who we often refer to as differently abled. On International Women's Day, we celebrated that in March, and that was celebrated with an I Am Visioning workshop in collaboration with Women of Worth, and 60 women were able to benefit from that workshop. In the afternoon, we saw an innovative session of our first instance of Women Can, and this was a plumb her competition. So 3 women were charged with the task of setting up a sink and all the drain pipes and the faucets, and from that, and they were able to do that on the spot with a crowd watching, Madam President. The winners were Ms. Keyshawn Williams, Kitana Blijen, and Nelisa Pemberton. On International Women's Day, we had an award ceremony where several women were awarded, and you had Dr. Kamari Louisi awarded for science, Diana Brown in the digital economy, Melissa Allen in the blue economy, Kenisha Lewis for the green economy, Tamesia Lestrade for the orange economy, and Kimberly Lazarus for women in non-traditional roles. You also had Ms. Deslyn Williams-Johnson, who was awarded for her work in the protection and empowerment of women and families. Of course, we cannot have an International Women's Day celebration without later having an International Men's Day celebration. And Men's Month is celebrated in November, so that has recently concluded. It was celebrated under the theme, Men's Health Matters. Again, get married, it helps your health. Marked by a number of timely activities, including podcasts, awareness, and sensitization activities. We culminated with the first ever joint federal award ceremony held here in Nevis on November 25th at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. Oftentimes, Nevis would have an award ceremony and St. Kitts would have its own award ceremony. But as we move towards greater cooperation and sustainability and streamlining to create efficiencies, Madam President, we saw this as an opportunity, one of many to come, where we can streamline and come together to have one ceremony. So this year it was held in Nevis, and you had 10 men being awarded in Nevis and 9 from St. Kitts coming over, along with a cohort of supporters. And next year, it will be in reverse as we journey over to celebrate with our Kittitian counterparts. And so the 10 men awarded on the division side were Dunford Wilkinson for community activism, Orville Starrett for creative economy, Brian Dyer, first response, Jevon Williams, sustainable development, Lawrence Richards, education, Michael Morton, entrepreneurship, and I must mention that he also designed the department's of Gender Affairs' new logo for this year, so he's quite accomplished. William Perkins in Health and Human Services, Oscar Astro Brown for our Legacy Award, Sterling Heiliger received the Premier's Award, McLevin Truss received the first of its kind regional award for Nevis. 9 men were also awarded from St. Kitts. Madam President, allow me to switch gears. Yesterday, Madam President, the Honorable Member for Nevis 4 referenced the need for more social safety nets. I will speak more to that later. And spoke specifically of the need to create, and I quote, "A small business can be established to help take care of children while the mothers work." Madam President, I think what the Honorable Member was describing is what we commonly refer to as daycares and nurseries. There are currently approximately 14 or more such businesses operating on the little island of Nevis. Madam President, with an already finite customer base, I certainly hope it was not a recommendation that we compete with said businesses. Especially after, Madam President, we have already put in place a program to help not only our single mothers, but all low-income parents and guardians, because, of course, in gender affairs, we like to be gender inclusive. So, Madam President, it was only in September of this year that the Department of Gender Affairs launched what is dubbed the action plan. And that stands for Assisted Child Care for Toddlers and Infants on Nevis. This, Madam President, is a daycare voucher assistance scheme. So it seeks not to compete with those existing small businesses providing nursery and daycare services, but it helps to work with them while providing that critical support for low-income parents and guardians. So under this program, Madam President, we support guardians and parents earning $2,000 or less, and we cover up to $300 per child. And the average cost of daycare on the island is approximately $400 per month. So that represents a 75% coverage of the monthly cost of daycare for these individuals. Low-income parents benefit from this safety net, Madam President. Daycares benefit from this program, Madam President, as payments are consistent and we can potentially increase their customer base, as individuals who would not have been able to afford daycare before can now possibly access it through this program. This program is open, Madam President, as birth happens continually. So this program is open, and we encourage parents within that threshold to register. You can contact the Department of Gender Affairs for additional information at 469-5521, extension 6750. To date, 28 families, Madam President, are benefiting monthly. To date, Madam President, 10 daycare providers have our clients enrolled, Madam President. Madam President, do you see what innovative thinking can help us to achieve? Programs that have real impact. Madam President, I like to quote individuals, not just say, you know, I spoke to someone on the street. So we had one individual in particular who accessed this program. Actually, she was an advocate. She was the driving force for such a program. She would have advocated for months prior the need to be able to get some assistance for parents who are trying desperately to meet the cost of daycare needs. So her name, I'm going to say it because she would have posted this publicly, so I don't think she would mind, Africa Wilkes. So she would have contributed to advocating for a program to be put in place to assist parents in this way. And Madam President, this is a post that she also made publicly. I would like to extend a hearty thank you to you, Premier Mark Brantley, and the Nevis Island Administration. I also would like to thank the Gender Affairs Department and all daycare providers on the beautiful island of Nevis. I've cried to the Honorable Mark Brantley of my day-to-day struggles on paying for daycare. He promised me change, and I've seen tremendous change with the action plan. I've received my voucher for $300 per month in assistance with daycare fees. Thank you, Premier Mark Brantley, for listening to my cries and taking action for struggling parents on the island of Nevis. Madam President, that is a real person, a real voice, a real impact. Madam President, still within the Department of Gender Affairs, the department is currently spearheading a number of activities in recognition of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And this runs from November 25th to December 10th, recognized as Human Rights Day. Major activities include podcasts, a legal panel presentation for victims about knowing their rights, endorsements and advocacy videos, emotional intelligence seminars for men, a darkroom video montage on the experiences of victims, a Wear Orange Day, which was celebrated previously, and another will be done tomorrow, Friday, the 8th of December, so please wear orange in support and in recognition of the 16 days of activism. And it culminates on December 10th with a paint and sip and sensitization session with our boys and girls of excellence. And this, Madam President, is to be able to train a child up in the way that he or she should go. Sometimes it's harder to reshape the mindset of adults, but we can definitely impact the minds of children. So we want to extend thanks as well to Seawell, who is coming on board as a partner to help sponsor that event. I move to social empowerment, Madam President. The list is quite long. Quite a number of activities and achievements were achieved by this sector of the ministry. So one of the priority goals under the Social Services Department would have been to improve disaster response readiness for vulnerable clients of the department. And as such, they partnered with disaster management to be able to hold a disaster planning training workshop for 108 of their clients. So they were also in conjunction with that, able to provide over 150 clients with much needed disaster and first aid kits. To further strengthen their efforts to prepare for responding to shocks, resiliency, Madam President, they also are working to create and document an internal disaster plan based on recommendations from the SEDIMA model. Madam President, Social Services Department also carried out workshops and facilitated health sessions for over 72 clients on social assistance program. We are focused within the ministry, Madam President, on empowering, not just giving a handout. So it's not just take this voucher, take this money and go. We're providing holistic support to clients of the department. So some of these sessions focused on NCD awareness and prevention. The department also upscaled its green food voucher program. And we know that the department provides food vouchers generally to supermarkets for lower income individuals to be able to access food supplies. But what they've also done is to partner with local producers so that families can access locally grown and healthy alternatives from the market and from these individuals for consumption. To that end, Madam President, 601 vouchers were distributed from March 2022 to June 2023, and 198 to be distributed from July to October, and 90 from November to December under the new RISE program. So a total of 889 is expected by December 2023, which we are in currently. Madam President, we also launched our fourth two-year cycle of the RISE program. And this was launched in August 2023. And when it's fully completed, we expect and project to impact 30 families under this program. And it is a conditional program that, again, not simply handout, but it's a holistic program where individuals are expected to engage in conditional activities such as disaster preparedness training, health and wellness programs, educational advancement, skills training, parenting training, family dynamics, and it touches the lives of everyone within the household, from the children to the parents. Beneficiaries have started CXC classes, health and disaster preparedness sessions, and caseworkers are working with individuals to plan out their life goals. And this would eventually minimize their need, Madam President, to access other social safety nets, because we're empowering them to be able to support not only themselves, but their families, and hopefully break that cycle of poverty that we see too often moving from generation to generation. For World Foster Day, Madam President, celebrated on May 31st, a number of activities were done to educate the public about the foster program that is run by the Department of Social Services. Quite often, social services get a bad reputation because they don't brag about the work that they do. It's not a bragging job. So the support that they're providing to individuals, the interventions that they're making to remove children from dangerous situations, those are not made public, Madam President. So it is confidential, so you have individuals who might go out and spin a narrative that is often false, but the social services will not come out and add any information or defend itself rightfully. But it's just to emphasize to the public that there is significant work taking place at the department. And you know, you can visit the department and even consider becoming a foster parent. There are different tiers, so it's not necessarily that you might have a child with you long term. You can possibly be a temporary foster parent where for immediate need, they might need a place for a child to stay for one night or 2 nights rather than an extended period of time. And you may be able to provide that service. So we encourage individuals who think they have that capacity and capability to visit the Department of Social Services, get more information about the program, and get involved in being part of the solution rather than simply criticizing from the outside. Madam President, our seniors program is quite possibly one of the best, if not the best, in the region.
The best.
The best. I stand corrected. Right. Is the best.
Right.
In the region, Madam President. Our seniors continue to benefit from a number of programs and services and exciting activities within the department. One area in particular that we focus on within this division is celebrating significant birthday milestones of our seniors, and particularly recognizing our centenarians. So, this year we celebrated with Miss Leontine Clark, Nevis's latest centenarian, on September 21st. This marked her 100th birthday. We also celebrated this year with Miss Eliza Jeffers Liebert of Hamilton, who would have made 104 on the 30th of November. She is now the oldest individual in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and she's quite a feisty one. So I believe she will be with us for some time, Madam President. We also have Mr. Clarence Hendrickson, and he was celebrated for 101 in September. Madam President, I must also recognize the loss and express our condolences for the loss of 2 of our centenarians this year. Mrs. Mary Brown, the previously oldest in the Federation. So we lost Miss Mary Brown just a few weeks short of her 107th birthday. She was laid to rest on her birthday, and so it was a celebration of life, Madam President. We also lost Mr. Bertram Roach earlier this year, and we extend condolences to their families, and we truly appreciate their contributions that they would have made to Nevis, and it was a joy to be able to interact with them. Madam President, in 2023, we also celebrated International Day of Older Persons, and the activities were plenty. They were so plenty, Madam President, that they rolled over from October, which was a month for older persons, well into November, from church services to radio discussions to beachniks, marches, sports day. Sports day was quite exciting, Madam President. There was something for everyone. You had the carrying the bucket of water on your head. You had a word find puzzle for those who weren't physically able. We had the thread the needle, Madam President. Had the cricket ball toss. It was an array of activities, and the atmosphere was quite one to witness. Our elocution contest, that, Madam President, was iconic. If you weren't there, be sure to be there next edition. We also had the first ever 70s dance, and that was extended to the general public. And the seniors had a grand time, and the not-so-seniors had a grand time and came to work crying for their knees the next day, Madam President. So, perhaps, no, that does not include me. I knew my limits. I knew not to test the boundaries of my limits. Others know better for next time. Have some guilty members in the gallery, Madam President. The ministry also records its profound thanks to the main sponsors and supporters. The main sponsors who came on board with the NIA to realize these activities this year were Trident Trust Company and National Bank, and we extend our heartiest thank yous to both these institutions. Madam President, to complement our already first-class seniors program, we had a recent donation of a laptop and 6 tablets from PAHO intended to immerse our seniors in the digital world and help them to stay connected to family and friends, Madam President. I shift over to the Sustainable Development Unit, and within this unit, their focus lies within promotion and bringing to fruition the Sustainable Development Goals. And as such, one of the programs that they would have implemented this year would have been a program instituted in the second quarter of 2023, and the introductory program would have given the history of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and other episodes would focus on Goal 6, such as clean water, sanitation, and water management, and Goal 1, no poverty, featuring representatives from social services. Also Goal 2, zero hunger, featuring representatives from the department. This program aims to showcase what is being done within Nevis and within the ministry to achieve some of the different social sustainable development goals. The department extends their thanks to the Nevis Television for collaborating on this program. The unit will also be introducing a tool to assist with monitoring and tracking the process made by Nevis in achieving the targets of Sustainable Development Goals. The tools will give insight into challenges, methodologies employed to combat these challenges to move Nevis forward in attainment of the goals by the target 2030. The unit also continues its work with the World Heritage Committee as they work for the inscription of certain sites, heritage sites across Nevis, to become UNESCO marked heritage sites, World Heritage Sites. Within the Department of Community Development, also quite a number of activities and achievements. There would have been the launch of the Gifted Games Club in Barnesgut, recognizing the need to inspire and engage students and children meaningfully in games, sportsmanship, tolerance, etc. We also saw the launch of our Community Advancement Program of April this year, and this is a collaborative effort between the department and the Charlestown Police Station, where there's a shared commitment to empowering the community, and it fosters growth among the youth by instilling values, life skills through activities such as games, lectures, etc. So over 150 youths form the pool for that program, and they are part of 12 individual already established groups within the islands. There was also the launch of our unsung heroes, recognizing our unsung heroes activity. And this was held in conjunction with the celebrations of our 40th anniversary of independence in September, where we recognize unsung heroes within our communities, our 5 parishes, and inducted them into what will become the Hall of Fame for years to come. So for St. John's, you had Alicia Brown, St. Thomas's, Sandrine Caesar, St. Paul's, Conrad Smithin, St. George's Parish, Joyce Movin, St. James, Leighton, Shuckle, Bryant. And the event also inspired a sense of community appreciation, Madam President. There was also a recently concluded Stonewall building workshop, and this helped to pass on to approximately 6 individuals the art of Stonewall construction. This provides an avenue for these young individuals to earn a living, Madam President, while gaining mastery at such a technical skill. And I can attest, Madam President, that the cost of constructing these walls are quite significant. I got a quotation once, and let's just say I don't have a stone wall. So I encourage these individuals to utilize the skills that they've gained thanks to Mr. Anthony Rodman Williams, and use them to be able to elevate themselves to become economically independent. We also hosted, thanks to community development, our Camp Refresh.
Remember, you have about 10 minutes.
Thank you. Our Camp Refresh activity, where 98 children would have participated during that camp in a number of activities: arts and crafts, public speaking, performing arts, health, character building, and more, Madam President. Madam President, the communications unit, sometimes we forget those behind the scenes. They're the ones who bring us a lot of the content that happens that you would have otherwise not been privy to. So our communications unit records all of our activities within particularly social empowerment, but they expand beyond that. So our seniors' birthday activities, you would have them on site. The intergenerational exchanges that takes place between our seniors and children at primary schools. Some of the activities hosted by the Department of Gender Affairs. You have activities such as the summer camps and Easter camps hosted by community development. Those are captured by our communications unit. They assist with the sports department in their coverage of a wide range of activities, as well as the health department in some of their promotional activities. As of September 1st, they came under the new leadership of Mr. Patrick Howell, and some new initiatives have been added to enhance the modus operandi, and that included, starting a Facebook page for the unit, having a weekly prayer session segment online where you offer prayers and positive messages to inspire those within the community, a weekly word of encouragement catered to the youth from local artists and celebrities. This adds a sense of virtual mentorship in a way. Team members are being trained in additional areas such as video editing and production. They've acquired a teleprompter so that we can record public addresses better to deliver to the public. They've begun repairing a number of damaged equipment, sustainability and resilience, Madam President. We might not be able to always afford new ones, but they're attempting to repair a lot of the damaged equipment before we spend unnecessarily, Madam President. So in the new year, they hope to, of course, expand further their reach and I commend them on their work thus far. So where do we want to go now, Madam President? We know where we are. We see what we're doing. Where do we want to go, and how do we intend to achieve it? Madam President, I will begin with the much discussed Alexandria Hospital expansion. Madam President, to say that the delays on this project are unfortunate is generally accepted across the board. Unfortunately, the global pandemic dealt the first severe blow to this project, rendering it relatively stagnant as critical resources were diverted elsewhere. Madam President, when charged with the choice between using limited resources to expand the physical structure or use limited resources to obtain necessary life-saving vaccines, PPEs, medical supplies, and critical testing, this government rightly chose its people, staying true to the mandate that people matter more. Madam President, as our economy showed signs of rebounding in 2022, the government again rightly reaffirmed its commitment to the completion of this project by allocating a capital expenditure amount of $10 million towards its in the 2023 budget. This funding, however, remained largely untouched, Madam President, as we face another hurdle in obtaining a necessary bill of quantities to guide the completion of the interior. The exterior is, for the most part, complete, but because it is a technical medical space, Madam President, you cannot simply just put beds and equipment any and everywhere. So it must be properly guided, and thus a bill of quantities is required for that. We contracted a local quantity surveyor in St. Kitts. However, they have at this time failed to deliver such that would allow us to move the project to the final stages. Madam President, this matter, failure to deliver, is now in the hands of our legal department, and we have taken steps to move forward with the project actively. So we have since contracted the medical design consultants to provide the necessary bill of quantities, and we have signed the agreement with them on November 1st of this year with a delivery timeline of 6 to 8 weeks for said bill of quantities. I've reached out earlier this week to the point person, and I was assured that we are still well on schedule for delivery. So in the upcoming weeks, we shall have that in hand, and in the first quarter, we can actively, vigorously begin work on the interior of this much-awaited expansion with the earmarked capital expenditure in this budget of $8 million. Madam President, against that backdrop, I return to the honorable member from Nevis Four's quite frankly slanderous comment from yesterday, where it was asserted that people's lives are deliberately put at risk. Madam President, you cannot even find evidence to show that people's lives are inadvertently put at risk, let alone a baseless assertion that individuals' lives are being placed deliberately at risk. Such commentary has no place in this House, Madam President. Madam President, when completed, the new wing will house, on the ground floor, the laboratory, radiology, physiotherapy, pharmacy, operating theater. The upper floor will house surgical ward, maternity ward, private beds, conference room, medical records, and on-call room for staff. Madam President, currently our radiology department is thriving. I would have noted the CT scans earlier, the mammograms, the PAC machine, X-rays. Madam President, our lab is extending its tests and services. Madam President, our pharmacy continues to service our people, expanding its hours. Madam President, we just added a new operating bed to upgrade our already functional operating theater. Our patients continue to receive physiotherapy. Madam President, again, I marvel at the fictitious assertion that the expansion project is somehow preventing us from providing healthcare services to our patients. All the services listed in the new wing, Madam President, are currently still being accessed at the highest level by individuals on the island of Nevis. Madam President, Madam President, I seek your indulgence for an additional 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Yes.
The question is that the member be granted an additional 30 minutes to wrap up the presentation. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam President, as I was saying, all services that will be provided in the new wing are currently being provided at the highest level at our current Alexandria Hospital. While the expansion is we're well awaiting the completion of the expansion, a nicer infrastructure, Madam President. This infrastructure is aimed at improving the working environment and the general workflow and layout of the hospital, Madam President. So currently, no services are being withheld from the Nevisian public due to its incompletion at this time. In fact, the services have improved. I've listed numerous services that we have added to our healthcare. So we're not sitting around waiting to service our people, Madam President. Madam President, while I take this opportunity, again, to say kudos to our healthcare professionals, because they continue to provide this quality service within our hospital space and our general health space, and every individual who accesses that hospital for care can feel the care and passion of our healthcare workers every single day. I pray that those who doubt the quality of care being provided at this hospital never have an opportunity to be proven wrong, Madam President. The team at the Alexandria Hospital do not need a hashtag to show that they care, Madam President. Their work speaks for themselves. And if their work doesn't speak loud enough, Madam President, allow me to quote again another individual. I love social media, Madam President. Individuals are able to share. We focus too much on the negative, but individuals are also able to share many of the positives. And so you have individuals sometimes sharing their experiences within the health space. So I quote another individual, Madam President. Today is National Doctor Day, and I want to join in wishing these doctors at the Alexandria Hospital a happy Doctor's Day. During my time there recently, I had the good fortune of being tended to by a number of them, and they were all extraordinary. Of course, though, I have reason to single out Dr. Duana Pemberton Jeffers, who went above and beyond, and then some to ensure my recovery. She wasn't just a doctor, but a guardian angel. And today I just want to let you know how grateful I am, and that you were employed at the Alexandria Hospital when I was a patient. You are the real MVP. Thank you is such a poor vehicle to express my appreciation. Again, massive props to all the doctors as well. I actually had a good time and got to know new people that I had never met. May God continue to give you the necessary strength and strategies as you continue to care for the people of Nevis. Of course, these aren't all the doctors, as some are missing. I want to thank the missing ones too. You all make a great team. Madam President, the same individual had quite a number of different posts, lauding the services of the hospital, recognizing from the nurses to the orderlies to the EMTs, the doctors, and the general staff for the quality care that they received and how invested these individuals were in ensuring that they recovered effectively and efficiently. So for someone to have the audacity, Madam President, to claim that Nevisians' lives are being put at risk in our hospital with these capable, caring professionals who we have on staff, Madam President, it's unthinkable. It's in an attempt to attack us politically, they have attacked these individuals who are lauded as heroes, MVPs, providing selfless service, and we can never compensate them to the level that they deserve to be, Madam President. So the least we can do as a public is to appreciate them and not make baseless, inaccurate, scandalous statements. Madam President, in addition to that expansion project, we will also begin the initial phase of the Charlestown Health Center in terms of its planning and design. We also intend in 2024 to roll out the emergency dispatch system. We have been updated that 90% of the equipment should be on Nevis by year end, and thus the training of dispatchers will be set to begin shortly. The full implementation of the project will be in 2024, and this project will help to build resilience, help to communicate in times of disaster, improve response time and efficiency, and streamline emergency response. We will continue to build out our blood donor drive. We will, at the lab, Madam President, the same laboratory that we spoke of, we will introduce new hepatitis B, PSA, thyroid function tests, Madam President. Additional services being added to cater to the needs of our people, Madam President. Improvement to our dietary services at the hospital with the opening of the brand new kitchen, and we will also be seeking qualified professionals. We want to be able to provide top-tier service. We will, of course, continue with having cooks, but we want an individual who have that specialized chef-type skill to be able to guide that process. We'll also see the rehabilitation of the laundry services at the hospital and a development of a central sterilization services for infection control and prevention at the hospital. I mentioned earlier the investment in the new sterilization machine, and we have already begun working on internal protocols, so that should be rolled out in 2024. We will also see the launch of a new Taiwan ICDF mental health project, and that project will last for approximately 3 years and will focus on mental health screening, promotion, and support throughout the island. In the Gender Affairs Department, we intend to pilot the Girls Mentorship Program and hopefully see the full rollout of the Boys Mentorship Program in 2024. Along with several other initiatives. In social services, Madam President, we intend to build out our household registry. This will enable us to get a better, more comprehensive database of the vulnerable individuals residing in Nevis who need our assistance. It can better inform allocation of scarce resources and separate the wants from the needs. Some individuals, Madam President, they might have a regular 9-to-5 job making $3,000, but they may come to social services asking for windows and doors to put into the extended part of the house that they're trying to build. Madam President, that is a want. There are individuals living in spaces where they have no access to indoor bathroom. Those are the types of cases we're trying to focus on, Madam President. So this household registry will help to reduce waste and prevent redundancies of individuals who made the habit sometimes of accessing support across ministries, across departments, without the consistency of knowing the complete package of what they are receiving. We also intend to repackage and launch a comprehensive seniors program. Currently, our seniors program is already the best. We already have many scattered benefits. We have benefits within the Ministry of Health, some within the Ministry of Social Service. We plan to package a comprehensive seniors program where we can outline clearly the benefits to our elderly seniors on the island. But Madam President, we cannot continue with a one-size-fits-all approach. That is not a sustainable model, and we will seek to redress that going forward. We will continue to engage all of our seniors in our activities, our birthday celebrations, our training, and general interaction, Madam President. But we recognize that not every single senior requires every single form of assistance. There are individuals receiving pensions from overseas. Their retirement packages are quite significant. They're living quite comfortably with complete familial support and quite a number of access. And so they may not be the ones who require utility assistance, for example. So we plan to tailor different packages, and based on our assessment of the individual seniors, we can show you the level and what services you can access in that form. This, Madam President, ensures sustainability of our program and our ability to provide more comprehensive benefits to those who really, really need them, Madam President. In terms of community development, we are also intending to upgrade some of our community centers structurally and to improve accessibility and inclusivity. At the Cotton Ground Community Center, we would have implemented a temporary ramp to allow for wheelchair access. We plan to make that permanent, as well as at the Bath Community Center, we've begun making that accessible for persons with disabilities as well. We also hope to move to making them more energy efficient and implement more additional community-based programs. We will continue our capacity building training workshops, such as the stone wall building workshop. Madam President, the framework to achieve this level of sustainability and resilience will require us to make certain changes, such as with the seniors program, Madam President. Within health, we will also see marginal increases in our current fee structure. Madam President, our fee structure comparatively throughout the region is woefully low. And increasing the fees marginally is not an attempt to make it inaccessible for those with lower incomes. We will continue to have certain safety nets in place through our medical assistance program, through social services, to be able to identify the critical groups who need additional support. But Madam President, the average individual, many government workers, private individuals, we have insurance and we can cover those costs. So if we look at the numbers in 2022 for the hospital, the actual expenditure was $10,889,835. whereas the actual revenue was $1,160,000. Madam President, that disparity cannot continue. We have to be able to not make a profit, not even break even, but at least cover some of those costs. We also intend to ramp up collection policies and aggressively pursue individuals who have outstanding balances at the Alexandra Hospital. We will continue with safety nets, as I mentioned, such as the medical assistance of up to $10,000 EC for urgent medical care. To date, in 2023, we have provided support to the tune of $392,098.58. Madam President, we will also continue to, throughout the ministry, have a closer relationship with social services so that we can better identify and assess vulnerable groups to see where we can provide additional support. We will continue to seek out internal and external training activities for staff, have active recruitment of skilled healthcare professionals. And we will continue to encourage and provide that support for our locals to pursue specialist training and pursue areas where we are understaffed. In social services, as I mentioned, there will be an increased focus on means testing and registering individuals to see the level of need that they may have. Madam President, our approach will remain nuanced and adaptive. We'll aim not only to invest in the facilities and technology, but we will attempt to cultivate an ecosystem where individuals and communities can thrive by prioritizing healthcare accessibility, gender equality, and social empowerment. We will lay the foundation for a future where everyone can flourish. The allocation is not only a representation of our present legacy, but of the prosperity of future generations to come. So we hope to achieve that resiliently and sustainably. Madam President, before I move to close, I wanted to come back briefly to the need for more social safety nets as expressed by the Honorable Member for number 4 yesterday. Madam President, we have a comprehensive social safety net package, and I've outlined it in the previous budget. It's outlined again, but for repetition's sake and for information's sake, we will outline quickly some of them. We have a safety net in terms of a public assistance cash bank, Madam President. 145 individuals are able to benefit from this, Madam President, in 2023. We offer home health care services, Madam President. 3 individuals are benefiting from that. Rent payments in extreme circumstances where you know it's immediate and there's a real present danger and need, that is being offered to 1 person. Food vouchers, Madam President, 41 individuals. Uniform, Madam President, 75 individuals. Subsidized electricity, Madam President, 187 individuals. Subsidized lunch for school children, 10 individuals. Seniors hot meals, 76 individuals. The poverty alleviation program, 661 individuals. The RISE program, 60 individuals. Teen Mothers program, 9 individuals. Madam President, more social safety nets than that, and I really cannot comprehend. And I didn't even mention as the daycare assistance program that we provide through our Gender Affairs Department. All it takes is a visit to our Social Services Department to gain actual knowledge of what is going on. They will not boast about the services that they're providing, but they are providing that critical help to the Nevisian public. So to make the public claim that we need more social assistance is uninformed, Madam President. Madam President, as I draw near to my closure, I will just touch quickly on, the budget allocation for this year for the Ministry of Health. This year's budgetary allocation for the Ministry of Health in terms of the recurrent expenditure is $33,942,300. And that, Madam President, represents 16.28% of the total expenditures. But Madam President, it's not enough to just focus on, the percentage and looking at who has what percentage of the pie and some theoretical threshold that it should be 25, 18, whatever percentage you want to suggest, Madam President. Looking critically at the number, that is an increase from the $32,240,300 budgeted last year. So, Madam President, the budget allocation in terms of numbers has increased. And when reviewing the recurrent expenditure or spending for the year 2023 within the ministry, I got a printout, I reviewed our expenses for the year, and under no head have we exceeded the budgeted amount for 2023. So there have been proper fiscal management. We are well under what was budgeted. And so to simply carry up the percentage to carry it up sake is not sustainable or practical, Madam President. And thus the amount allocated this year is well within what the needs of the Health, Gender Affairs and Social Empowerment Ministry, and will continue to use it efficiently and effectively to provide a resilient and sustainable future for all individuals in Nevis. Madam President, I want to just take this opportunity to express my thank you to, it's been just about 1 year since I have taken up this post, and I want to say thank you to not only my colleagues, but especially the technical team and staff within the Ministry of Health, Gender Affairs and Social Empowerment. They have been the backbone of the ministry and continue to provide critical support in keeping the ministry functioning and serving the people of Nevis. Madam President, there's always a narrative that government workers don't do enough, but in healthcare, in gender affairs and social empowerment, I can definitely see evidence of hard-working individuals that significantly outnumber any who might not be operating optimally, Madam President. Madam President, next year I hope to have great engagement with the ministries and plan the way forward. It has been a learning year and we have not made any significant changes, but we want to plan the way forward intentionally and to create a sustainable and resilient future, and that is my intention. So at this juncture, I want to take the opportunity to once again say thank you, wish everyone a happy, enjoyable holiday season with your friends, families, and before I close, throw in one last reminder to wear that orange tomorrow in recognition of the 16 days of activism, and Support the World is the initiative tomorrow by the Health Promotion Unit at the Zanzibar rooftop, where they have their adult games night to sensitize on sexual health and HIV and AIDS. Madam President, with that, I thank your indulgence and wish this bill a safe passage through this honorable House.
Thank you.